In this video, I'll be showcasing the various different tools that you can use in Photoshop. So as you can see here, I've got a brick texture here. It is locked in its layer. To unlock it, all you gotta do is just double tap it, name it. So now it's unlocked, I can start editing this texture. Now the first set of tools you can see here are your selection tools. This one just lets me move the texture if I need to. The lasso tool, if I just make a circle here, it creates a selection. Same with these ones, these are also selection tools as well. If I just click and drag, just create a selection there. You have the magic wand tool, which selects certain areas, but it's kind of random. You're never going to get a really good idea of what you're selecting. You can change the tolerance if you want to here. And again, you can see these little triangles at the bottom here. If you click and hold, you see that there's various other tools within that, so sort of subcategories of tools. You have the quick selection. Just do that. Again, it kind of selects areas that you want. If it selects areas that you don't want to be selected, if you hold Alt, you can unselect those specific areas. This is pretty useful if you want to say edit specific areas of a texture. Now the cool thing about the selection tools are, if you select certain areas, say for example, I'll just select a few of these bricks here. I'm not really fussed about what exactly it's selecting, so I'll just say, yeah, say this selection here, just do this one, and say this one. If I make any changes or any edits, it won't do it for the entire thing, but only for those areas that are selected. So say for example here with this brush tool, I want to color in just a specific area. So if I just mess around here, as you can see, it only edits the areas that are selected. It doesn't go anywhere outside. Again, I can only edit the places that are selected. This is a really useful tool if you want to, again, make those little bit of extra details or little subtleties within certain areas of your textures. And the cool thing here is that you can also save your selections. So I'll just call it bricks selection. So if I say deselect, and if I want to select those specific areas again, I have had it saved, so I can just load it, brick selection, and it loads it up for you. Saving selections is also a way to create alpha maps, which you can use for transparencies. Say for example for a skybox or for chain link fences. So let's go through some of the other tools as well. So if I go to the image adjustments, we have the brightness, contrast, levels, and curves. This is pretty much standard really. I think you understand what this is. Brightness, if I turn it to this side, it really brings up those highlights in the image. If I go down, it sort of makes it darker, giving it more shadows. Here again, brightness and contrast pretty much just change the tonal values of your texture. And it's really important just to edit textures. I mean, this texture might look okay for a model, but realistically you want to make just slight little differences to it just to make it really stand out. So if I go to the image adjustments, brightness, contrasts, I might just darken it slightly maybe, or add a little bit of that to it. Again, not much change, so that's the change there. If I just go back, you can see that it's made those very little subtle differences. That's what really makes a texture stand out, if you add those sort of little subtleties here and there. And pretty much the levels and curves do the same thing, except it gives you more of a visual idea. So you can see there it goes from the RGBs. Again, I can kind of change it if I want to. Same with the curves. Again, I get a sort of curve graph. If I just select on the curve, it creates a point there, and I can move that point. And I can add different points as well, so you can kind of see it makes little differences. Again, I'm just messing around to show you what it does. It can be useful if you know how to use it properly. So this get part might be a bit too high up. Doesn't really. Again, I'm not really fussing. I'm just trying to show you how it works. I'm not really trying to make any sort of subtle differences here. And same, you got also differences. Invert just makes it inverted. You might not ever want to use that tool. The hue and saturation, again, you can kind of add lightness to it. Saturation color maybe. You see that? Just those little differences here and there. That actually looks pretty decent actually. Yeah, you can see again, if I just undo, you can see how much difference it really makes. best thing I would say is just go around and just mess with these. You want to just try to mess around with the tools, trying to get a good looking texture. So over here, as you can see, there are these three tools: dodge, burn, and sponge. Dodge and burn pretty much lighten and darken areas. So the dodge one adds little highlights to it, you know, bringing out the lightness to it. You can change the exposure, so it's like 22 at the moment. If I do full 100, you can see that it's much more brighter. Turn it down. Again, the sort of subtleties really added into it. I would say if you have a graphics tablet or a Wacom tablet, then these sort of tools are absolutely great. With a mouse, it's not really that good. It's better to have a Wacom tablet because you add that pen pressure in, so you can have sort of very subtle changes. Again, it's all about subtlety. If you're trying to make sort of photorealistic stuff, you want to try to have those sort of little subtleties here and there. It's not really a good idea to use a mouse. I always say use a Wacom tablet. And if I use the dodge one here, you can see that again it darkens it. You can change the brush size here, so you change it up and down. You also change the brush type, so you can see this is more softer, this is more harder. There's all these sort of varying different brush strokes that you can get. You can download some more as well from the internet as well. So you can see that this darkens it. The sponge tool desaturates your image, so it kind of creates like a black and white image. I'll just do it for the whole thing. You can kind of see, as you can see, it's kind of creating like a black and white image there for you. Again, it's all about subtleties. You might want to use these tools just to make sort of various little changes. So the next thing I want to show you are the layers. Now if you go to the bottom right hand corner here, you select this little button here and it creates a new layer, and you can pretty much fill that layer with whatever you want. So I can literally just like fill it with the color or whatever. But I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a different texture from another file. As you can see, I've got a bunch of different stuff here. I'm going to bring this one in here, bring it into this texture here. I might just scale it down a little bit. As you can see, I've got this texture right above the bricks. Now, the really cool thing you can do here is that you can actually change its layer type. So as you can see here, you've got this whole array of options here for you. So if I just quickly go through them, you can kind of see that it, you know, darken, multiply, color burn, and just quickly sifting through all the different options that you've got here at your disposal. Now this is a really good way of changing and editing your existing textures. So if I just go back to, say, overlay, you can see that looks like it's actually got sort of like moss or dirt hanging over it. You can see that that's so much better than, say, the normal, because you can just clearly tell that that's just a texture over this. Doesn't really look that good, does it? But if I go to, again, overlay or soft light or hard light, that looks like it's actually a part of that wall. Again, it's really subtle, but it makes a heck of a lot of difference. Also over here you can actually change the opacity as well, so I can actually just kind of make it more transparent, almost completely gone, halfway, or full. You can do it with any type of layer, so I can just put it there. Again, bring it down. That actually kind of works, just bring it down. Again, messing with the opacity can make it better or can make it worse. Again, the whole thing about texturing is you got to mess around with it, just play around with Photoshop, see what works, see what doesn't work. So again, I'm going to take it back to overlay actually, because I think that did a pretty decent job just making that sort of little bit of difference. Before I end this video, I'll just quickly go over a few of the extra tools that you have as well. So I'm going to quickly just drag something over here, this one here. Yeah. Now you can see that this texture is far too big. The best thing to do is to scale it down. So if I press Ctrl T, it brings up the free transformation tool. As you can see, I can rotate it wherever I want. I can also scale it down by selecting these little boxes here. I can scale it up, down, left, right, to its side. But the problem is, as you can see, if I do that, it kind of loses its shape. Again, I can just do that. It can kind of get skewed, stretching it out, pixelating it, or making it too bundled up. If you want to keep its original shape, the best thing to do is to, again, Control T, bring up the transformation tool. Click on the area that you want to drag down from, hold Shift. It actually keeps its size when you're scaling it down. This is the best way of scaling down objects because it keeps its shape. I can see that it's kept its shape as opposed to, say, this here. So you can see it getting dragged up a bit. But if I press Shift, it keeps it in place. If you go to Edit, Transformation, you can add in different things like scaling, rotate, skewing, the distortion. rotating it counterclockwise, anti-clockwise, 180, flipping it horizontal, flipping it vertical. These are some extra tools that you might want to use as well. Okay, so I just took a few minutes just to quickly edit this texture here. So this is the original texture. This is the one that I just quickly edited in about 5 minutes. It's not amazing, I know, but I hope you can see that just adding that little bit of tweak to it, adding a little bit of a decal to it, changing its tonal values, making it brighter, darker in certain areas, just makes it stand out just so much more compared to that. That just looks like an image there. Here, again, it just pops out a little bit. So you can see I've got like different layers here. I've got the orange here. If I turn it off, you can see that it's very subtle, just brightens it a little bit. Again, play around with the tools, mess around with them, just try to edit your textures just a little bit just to make them more vibrant, stand out a bit more.